Oh, it looks like it's on.
It's on. It's on. So hi. This,
Hi.
so nobody's actually on right now, but for the future watchers, thank you for joining us. um, this whole kind of endeavor um, is kind of a little plan that I've hatched to try and keep some human contact.
Mhm.
Um, and everybody's so busy, and it's kind of hard to make friends anyway when everybody is so busy. And I was thinking about how many amazingly interesting people I am lucky enough to know, some of which I am lucky enough to be related to. Um, and it's really exciting to me because there's so many people who work in so many different sectors, but because kind of there's this weird through line of me, of knowing all of you, you're all interconnected in some way, shape, or form. And so a lot of my friends and colleagues are going to be really fascinated by the things that are a part of your career and a part of your life and a part of your service. And then my next guest that I have lined up is completely different, and yet you do have a kernel of connection. And so my goal is to help my friends and family maybe feel a little less isolated, because they're able to meet new people in a different way. And I didn't want to do a podcast. I wanted to do something that was visual because we are so desperate to see other humans.
Oh, yes.
And so that's why I'm doing this. Now, this is very low key, this is very lo fi. At any moment, my dog may go off or my kid may wander in. But at the end of the day, we're among friends, and I want to celebrate that. So that's what this is kind of about. So this is my Aunt Mary. This is my Aunt Mary Bedel, and she is actually my aunt via marriage. She's Brian's aunt biologically. Um, and so, yeah. Is there anything you would like to share with people about you?
Oh, and we're
I,
just going to go open-ended
we're
here.
just gonna, yeah.
Okay.
This is a very open conversation. This is very chill.
All
Um,
right.
so
All
yeah. So you are. How are you related to Brian? Let's
right.
start.
Okay. Brian's father is my brother, my second oldest brother. Um, I remember knowing Brian when he was little, and he'd run around. He loved balls, and he just kept coming up. And I was in high school, and it was great because he kept bringing me a ball. It was just marvelous. And he was the first grandchild. And so we were totally entranced with this dynamo of a little boy who was, I mean, I have to say, he was very cute. Grew
I
up
think we passed that down with the new generation.
Yes, you certainly
Ruggaber.
did. You did a good job on that, Amy.
Oh, thanks. I tried. I worked really hard on that.
You did. So Brian was born when I was in high school. I went through Catholic elementary school and high school, and then had the wide awakening of coming down to Ball State University and realizing not every class starts with a prayer. I was always interested in special education, and I'm one of those few people who really knew from the very beginning what they wanted to do. I loved the kids.
Really?
I grew up with a neighbor who had a child who was disabled, and was just an inspiration how this kid was always happy. And got a job almost right out of college, and here in Muncie, Indiana, teaching special education. in 39 years, it went through all kinds of changes, but I taught 39 years in always in special education, always at the elementary level. But sometimes I had K through 5 in my classroom, and sometimes I had 3 to 5, and sometimes I had K to 3. Sometimes I had a lot of autistic children. Sometimes I had mostly kids with cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy. In the early years, there were a lot of kids that we integrated later on. So I had kids with a blood disease that would never have put them in a special education class now.
Mm.
That's part of the good stuff that's happened.
I love that you knew from
I
like the
spent
get-go.
30 years. Say again.
Oh, I love that you knew from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
And seriously, we need to all pause for a minute to allow the applause from all of my friends and colleagues to die down, because the fact that you're a teacher, the fact that you're a special education teacher, and the fact that you did that through 39 years is just extraordinary. I mean, it's so quick. So many of my friends who are my age, who are teachers, burnout is such a problem.
Amy, it's such a different world. Teaching now versus teaching 39 years, well, a little bit more than 39 years ago.
Yeah.
It's no longer, when I started, there were still a great many families who were very grateful for a teacher that cared.
Yeah.
And they let you know. And there's a whole different kind of mentality now toward teachers. And it breaks my heart that teachers have become the reason for why the students aren't doing what we want them to do.
Mm.
It's so much more complicated than that. And it's just, I am thrilled when people are going into education, because there's this large part of me that goes, why? And I don't know if I could handle another 39 years like that. It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, full disclosure, I have a degree in education. I had a scholarship to college in education. And I love kids. I love teaching. I love all of it. But I knew I did limit my student teaching. But I just knew I wasn't cut out for that. That it wasn't the right, I guess, kind of medium of education in a way.
Sure.
I just knew it wasn't going to work for me.
Yeah.
And I know so many people who went in and continue to go into teaching, most of my friends in music, and they do incredible work. And I am just in awe of their ability to really stick with it, because it's very tough.
Yeah.
I'm hoping one of the good things that's coming out of this whole thing, and by the way, in case you didn't know, we're recording this in the midst of the coronavirus pandemonium that is existing in the world. And I'm hoping that one of the good things that can come out of this is that schools being closed for this long is really going to make families, is really going to cause people to really focus on how important the work is for teachers.
I think that would be one of the wonderful gifts that we might be able to get with all of this. I don't know how young families are handling the self-quarantines. This is, somebody said, for all the frustrations that we as 60 plus are feeling and are trying to watch ourselves, I think it would still be much, much worse to have young family that would need entertainment and direction and feeding. I mean, Vern and I are looking at each other going, oh, when do we get to go out to eat again?
Well, yeah, and it's a fine line right now between helping Nate, our 5-year-old, understand um, that things are weird right now
Yeah.
and not scaring him.
Yeah.
And it's a very fine line. So I am very open to if anyone has suggestions of how to talk to the kids about this. Because right now, I mean, he's devastated because he was supposed to have a special camp at the zoo about dinosaurs. That
Oh,
got
man.
canceled. Um, we're getting into birthday party seasons. Well,
Yeah.
why can't I have a play date? Well, why can't we go this place? And why can't we go that place? And why can't we do this? And yeah, it's tough. So my internet connection
Yeah.
isn't stable, apparently. So we're just gonna keep going, and when it runs
Okay.
out, or whatever happens, we'll roll with it because that's the name of the game these days is
You
rolling with
bet.
it. So you also so you're a special education teacher.
Mhm.
You did this for 39 years. You also are a mom,
I am a mom. Um,
and you can talk
just
about that as much as you want to or as much as you don't want to.
That's fine. You know the story, and I don't have a problem sharing it. My husband and I went through 5 years of infertility. Um, After we had tried one in vitro attempt and decided that really wasn't going to work, we were one of the couples that it failed early on in the whole procedure, and so it was like, this is never going to work. 5 months later, um, a private adoption came our way, and we were thrilled that it actually came through. We'd gone through a couple of failed attempts. 3 months later, we heard of another opportunity, and I took this opportunity to 3 other couples. And the other couples, for one reason or another, the one and two decided they would proceed with the adoption format that they had started. The third one said, well, we've been infertile for a long time, but I want to do a couple more procedures. And something told me, I said to her, if you end up not wanting this baby, come back to me before you talk to the birth mom. And around Christmas, she called me and told me she was pregnant. And I said, great, you'll have about 7 months between the kids, but that's wonderful. Lots of people have kids close together. She said, no, we've decided we don't want to pursue this adoption. So 6 months after we brought Matt home, we brought Paul home. And the kids were straight out of the hospital. We were thrilled that Matt came to us at 2 days old and Paul came to us at 3 days old.
Wow.
It was kind of like having twins, but not quite. Surge ahead in the story. Both kids ended up with some strengths and some weaknesses. My oldest son has some issues with mental illness and mental health, but is independent and functioning very well in Orlando, Florida right now. My second son is living here at the moment, but he's today working full time for a good company in town. Don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Life is all up in the air these days, but
Everything. The changes are happening in an astronomical rate.
yeah.
Matt started showing his issues of depression and anxiety. As the earliest was 4th grade, we started counseling, started a medication support for the ADHD. Middle school got harder. with some suspensions, some fighting. High school, there ended up being a couple of times where he had to be homeschooled because the depression was so overwhelming.
Mm.
But we got through high school, and there were a lot of days I didn't think that was going to happen. I needed support. I've spent my life, I think, doing support groups. When we were infertile, there was Resolve, which was an infertility group. When we adopted, we had an adoption group. But though I was a special education teacher, I wasn't prepared for a child to have such serious problems. So I found NAMI. NAMI is National Alliance on Mental Illness.
And those of you not familiar, this is NAMI.
Very good.
You'll see that again later.
Oh, I'm impressed.
Hey, I prepped for this. It's loosey-goosey, but I did have a plan. Roughly.
Oh, very good.
Oh, I have a whole 4 questions written down for you.
I am one of a family of type A people. Some of us a little more type A than others. Somebody said, "Are you type A?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. What does that mean?" She said, "Are you always in charge of a meeting?" And I said, "Well, if I'm not, I'm sitting there thinking what I could do to make that meeting better." And she said, "Yes, you're type A." So,
Yeah.
not a big surprise that I got involved with my NAMI group, although it took me a good year or 2 to get up the courage to go into a support group and figure out if I belong there. It was really frightening to walk in the first time. But
around about what time, what year was that ish? Was this 90s?
Matt graduated in 2005. So this was probably the worst of those high school years, was probably 2004, 2003.
Yeah. Okay. So somewhere in that range. I want to make sure that we have some sort of a timeline for people to understand, because awareness around mental illness has changed dramatically in the last
and
year.
For children especially.
For children especially. And so I wanted to give everybody that kind of touch point of here's where we're talking in that timeline, because the idea of, yes, it really takes courage to walk into something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And yep. So please continue. I just wanted to get that little time point.
So maybe a year into it, the gal who was the support group leader not only had an adult son who was mentally ill, but her own parents, she was caught in that in between, needed her help too. And she asked if I would take over the support group. And I said, sure. And then I thought, holy cow, what have I done? I don't even know the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. I had better learn. And we had a gal that was a Ball State prof who said, honey, I'll teach you everything you need to know. And the best way to get to know this is to join the state board. And I went, oh, no. She said, you won't believe what you'll hear to learn there. Well, I had never thought about a state board, ever. But I did want to learn. And so I jumped into the state board, let me think, 2018. I'm backing up here. 18 is when I got off, 11 years. So in 2009, I joined the state board.
Nothing like a steep learning curve there.
It was a steep learning curve. It was like, what? How am I going to help these people if I haven't had it? NAMI is great in that it offers all kinds of training. There's a support. There is not a time that you would participate in NAMI that you aren't trained. So there was a support group training. There was teaching the family to family class, which I took, which was at that time 12 classes. Now it's 8 classes, which is much smarter. It's just been revamped. But it's a class for anybody who cares about um, somebody who has mental illness to help you understand what they're going through. There became a class for NAMI offered something called NAMI Basics, which was a class for parents in high school. And that was a really, I thought, oh, if I could have changed anything for Matt in high school, I would have done it in a minute. So I took that training. I can teach that class now. But every time NAMI offered, someone was like, yeah, I want to learn that. Jumped in with both feet. Then there were a couple of things that led me to retire.
Okay. I'm taking notes.
Oh, okay. One of them was my right knee was bothering me more and more, and I couldn't get down on the floor with the kids. I felt like that wasn't fair. Another one was our school corporation was offering insurance at the same price, health insurance at the same price as I would get if I was teaching. And another one was changes in the retirement outcome money. And then the third one was the state organization was asking me to consider being president. And when you're president,
The NAMI state organization.
NAMI state organization. Okay. And that is a 3-year commitment. And usually people are reelected and do a second, third year. So it was like a 6-year commitment that I was looking at. And part of that time is vice president. And I thought, okay, it's kind of like the stars are aligning. I think this is the time I should retire. But as I said before, I loved the kids. It was really hard for me to step out of my classroom.
Yeah.
But I just tried to focus on what I could do. So full-time volunteer is kind of what it ended up being. I retired out of one to move into doing things across the state, traveling, going in to help at the office in Indianapolis, which is about an hour and 15 minutes for me. Decided and certainly did not feel retired. Very active in all of that. Moving ahead, I served as long as I could, both at the county level and for NAMI in Delaware County, and also at the state level. And so a year ago, almost exactly, I came off the county board because you can only be there for 9 years. These were the bylaws I wrote.
I was your own laws.
Yeah. And I actually served 10 years at the state level because I needed to get in a year of past president to help the new president. So they extended me and called me grandfathered in. So I just came off the state board last October.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So now I'm looking at what do I do now?
Well, I think that's a question that's on a lot of people's minds right now. And truthfully, your experience with mental illness and your experience as a support for people who are trying to understand or grapple with mental illness, not only for themselves, but for their family members and their community around them, is one of the reasons I wanted to kind of kick this off with you. Because this social distancing
Yes.
is very hard, mentally as well as emotionally. Physically, it's we're all just kind of wandering around staring at walls and things is what it feels like. But again, that's why I wanted to do this as a video, because staring at the same faces even if they're faces that you love desperately, is really challenging after some time. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you still need human contact, human companionship. Um, and so this is an attempt to not only provide a touch of that for people, but also I knew that by talking about NAMI, we could talk about um, opportunities that are and resources and tools that are available to people through the NAMI network. And that's one of the reasons I did this whole little sign thing. So if you are interested and you want to know about any of these things, this right here, www.nami.org, is where you go. And all of those classes that Aunt Mary was talking about, family to family, basics, and they have several others. If you scroll all the way down on the web page, at the very bottom of the web page, there's this massive list. It's got support hotlines. It's got I'm sure they have things like chat groups. There are local chapters. You can find your local chapter, and so even if because of social distancing and stuff, you can't actually connect with somebody in person, you could probably reach out to their Facebook page or things like that. Um, and so there's this incredible wealth of opportunities and tools available to you, so that if you feel yourself starting to kind of not be okay,
Mhm.
and if you witness someone you love becoming not okay, um, you have someone that you can talk to, and it doesn't have to be somebody that you're afraid might judge you. Um, these
Absolutely.
these are the important thing is to identify when you start to feel on the edge and you start to feel not in control of your emotions and your feelings, and then knowing where to go for help, because once you get to that point, having to really search is impossible. It feels impossible. It is just heartbreaking and heart-wrenching to watch somebody go through it. um, I struggle myself with depression and anxiety, particularly anxiety. And you know, once you get to that stage, there's not a lot you can do. You need help to be able to navigate. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you broken. It doesn't make you less of a person. It makes you somebody who is human and somebody who needs someone that they can reach out to. So this is not me preaching at anybody. This is me saying, don't let yourself get to that point, because we are in a dangerous, and I know I'm going because this is who I am. If you know me, you know that this is who I am. My friend Jocelyn used to say at ETC when I worked there that it wasn't a day at ETC unless Amy cried about something. Usually overly emotional crying, not like, oh, the world, the sky is falling crying, but you know. Um, but we're in a time that can be, it's incredibly stressful. And anxiety, I mean, keeps me up at night with some of this stuff. And there's so much that's out of our control. This is something that we can give you some tools to help you control it and help you not, even if you don't feel like you can control it, you can help control your journey. You can steer your journey a bit. Um, so that was so talking to Aunt Mary, we learned a few things, and I'm just going to let her listen to what I learned. It's important to jump in with both feet. Even if you don't always feel like it's a great idea because you feel like you may be in deep water. Um, Sometimes you just got to take the leap of faith and jump in, and and say yes to the baby 6 months later, and say yes to being on the state board when you aren't sure if that's what you want to do, and say yes to recognizing when it's time to step away from one part of your life and start a new one, because that takes enormous courage to do that. The second thing is to always keep learning. Always say yes when there's an opportunity to learn something, when there is a chance to get training, when there is a chance to explore and engage. That's what I'm hoping that we're all going to do together through this kind of process that series-y thing that I'm trying to do. Keep learning, keep exploring, keep meeting, keep doing. And the last thing is really to focus on what you can do. Again, so much is out of our control right now. Focus on what you can do. Focus on what you can build. Focus on what is the positive. And that isn't to say the positive Mary Sunshine, Pollyanna kind of positive. No, it's to focus on your proactivity. How can you be proactive, and how can you what can you do when you're faced with a wall of all the things that you can't? So I think that's a good length for our interview. Aunt Mary, I want to thank you so much.
I want to add one thing because I feel bad.
Yes, please, please.
Okay. Through all of this, I need to say that I have had the best husband for 38, 39 years, somewhere in there. I should have
Yeah,
counted that.
Uncle Vern's pretty awesome.
Who has totally supported me as I have abandoned him and gone and done a million meetings. He has been just a great, great asset for me as far as standing in the background and really telling me that I can do some of the stuff that I think I can't do. And I also want to self-disclose, Amy, disclose that I've also been in intensive counseling and been really working through Al-Anon for some self-awareness stuff. And so, but I thought, oh my God, I haven't talked about Vern. So,
oh yeah,
the husband.
Yeah, always thank your team.
Yes, absolutely.
It takes a village to raise a kid. It takes a team to build a life, and yeah, we're all in this together. That's the social part of social distancing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
try to so this is so challenge yourself, and let's all challenge ourselves to get closer through social distancing in some way, shape, or form, because there's
I had somebody challenge me today to make 2 phone calls to people I don't normally call every day.
Hey,
I know, I love it.
Chat today.
Yes.
Well, thank you again, and
you're welcome.
And I love you, and I'm so grateful to be your niece.
Aw, I love you too. Love you too. This was a great thing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna stop this recording.
Okay.
All right.